In this short video, I want to explain a little bit about SILVERPOINT, the drawing technique which goes back to the Renaissance. The effects you can get with it involve the use of a very fine silver wire. This is a modern holder I'm showing you. You can get them in different widths, and there's the wider one. Just hold it slightly better so it comes into focus. Yeah, and you can adjust these to get a particular length to it. Now, the reason for stressing the length of the wire, it's quite important to keep the wire away from the fixture that I'm unscrewing here. If you hold the wire, it's great fun trying to get it out. If you hold the wire out about 1.5–2 centimeters, that means that you don't end up pressing too hard, otherwise the wire bends, of course, and that is absolutely essential to ensure that you don't fall back to using the tool a bit like a pencil or other drawing implement, where the application of pressure to increase darkness is your instinct. Just doesn't work like that with SILVERPOINT. SILVERPOINT involves a very gradual, slow, repetitive application of the point over a prepared ground. You can see here I'm working with a magnifying glass and gradually, very carefully, just moving that point over and over the surface of the support and building up the drawing in stages. I found it quite easy to actually, despite knowing this in advance, still cut through the ground and it removed to an extent, and then you either have to throw the work away or do some remedial work to reapply the ground, and yeah, you need some very fine sandpaper, and it's not much fun. Anyway, as I say, this short video is going to just really serve as an introduction. It's not going to cover every aspect of laying the ground. I'll do that in a separate video. What you can see me doing here is resting on a piece of tissue paper. Now that's very important because obviously hands, even when clean, do apply grease to a surface unavoidably. So it's important to keep the work bone dry. You can see me just sketching out here a series of figures from the motif I used to make the bronze for the exhibition at Sandham Memorial Chapel coming up. It's a series of non-denominational deities that I'm evolving gradually in my work. Slightly faster than it takes to draw them, but yeah, they're evolving in various media, including paint and sculpture. But here I am. I'm drawing it out. I'm working in a regular grid fashion, and I chose SILVERPOINT. This is one of the rewards. I'm producing a crowdfunding reward for one of my supporters, and yeah, I chose SILVERPOINT because it allowed me to think about everything that's happening at the moment. As you work, you need to concentrate, but it does, because of the slowness of it, it's quite meditative, and other thoughts do kind of overlay what you're up to. So I found this absolutely perfect for these crazy lockdown times that we are in. And quite often, yes, silence is golden, no? So for anyone who's interested in actually having a go and wondering what equipment you need, the basic equipment, then I'll put the links in the description below. You don't necessarily need a fancy tool like I've got, although you know that's really quite useful, I must admit. Check it out. You just basically need some metal point of some description and the ground, the specific ground that means that as the metal it draws across it, small deposits from the metal are left on the surface. So traditionally the silver point ground is a bone ash ground in a dispersion, and you can get that from the better online art suppliers, or you can get acrylic silver point grounds now as well. But yeah, I'll put all the links in the description. Here you can see as the tool is coming down there, you can see why I said do not leave too little of the wire pointing out, because if you do, then it scrapes, because the tool is at an angle, it actually scrapes on the surface there, and you've got some cleaning up to do afterwards, which is really, really tricky. So if you're not familiar with these strange little figures that I'm producing here, which move from something that looks slightly more like a figure to something that looks slightly more like a flower, then if you check out my website, you'll see some other paintings and a few images on my Instagram account of the bronze that I've created for the exhibition at Sander Memorial Chapel I mentioned earlier. That is going to involve my first bronze sculpture, and these silver point drawings that I'm doing are kind of looping back to consider what I've done there and return to my primary modus operandi, which is much more two-dimensional and pictorial. As well as the magnifying glass that you can see there, the other thing that's really important is illumination of the work. It's no good trying to work in this medium if you can't see what's going on and you're getting shadows from the hand. There's a shot of the finished distribution of images, and there you can see how I'm evolving the works and dancing between the little quasi-person that's human and the little quasi-person that is my idea of a non-denominational deity. So if you're wondering how long it takes to produce a drawing of this sort of size, it's about 15 by 20 centimeters. I think it must have taken me it's certainly taken me about 3 weeks elapsed time, but in terms of actual effort, I would imagine it's possibly, let me think, probably about 18 to 20 hours, I think. It's certainly a process that can't be hurried. But again, I'm really embracing this at the moment. It seems to me a very nice way of slowing everything down and committing to a particular outcome. It's certainly I think it's fair to say it's the largest silver point drawing I've done to date. It won't be the last, and I'm certainly considering ways ways of exploring what scale I can go to with silver point that actually justifies me making that investment in terms of time. Got a lot of doubts about that at the moment, but it seems to me it's a medium. Obviously, traditionally, if you look online at examples of really accomplished silver point, they're very rarely very large, although I'm sure there are probably people working out there on a large scale with it. I just haven't really discovered them yet. So Possibly to somebody who sees it for the first time. There we are, there's a nice close-up. It looks, especially online, as if it's just very similar to working with graphite, you know, the effect that's left there. But it isn't. If you really look in front of the work, not online, not digitally, but actually you encounter a Silverpoint drawing, you will see a sort of beautiful silvery, slaty sheen to the dark areas, and that's a particular characteristic that varies. That is unique to Silverpoint. I think it's very different to the sort of graphite sheen that you get from lead pencils, which obviously aren't truly lead, but you know what I mean. So you can get some beautiful gradations there. You can just see by me adhering to the rules. They're not rules, but it's how you need to work with it. By adhering to that process, you can get some beautiful gradations. And that's the payoff. You can see all sorts of forms taking shape there, which make a nice contrast to the similar painted matrices that I've generated over the last 8 months or so. And there we have it. There's the a hint of what the finished work is going to look like. And I'm really looking forward to getting this to the particular person who has been very patiently waiting for this drawing to come through. It's going to be mounted on die bond, which is a proprietary form of aluminium composite panel. And that just gives slightly more stability to the support, which is gessoed card with the Silverpoint ground on top of that. But obviously the card bows slightly, there's slight irregularities, and I wanted to use the aluminium support to even that out. So there we are, there are my little dancing quasi-figures, each in his own little compartment, but relating to each other in some way.